When I took on the role, I didn't really know that much about social work, and I was pretty sure that I wanted to try and research as much as I could, because I felt quite a strong responsibility for all of the social workers out there, to represent them as well as I could, within the context of the show and the story of the show. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey for me. I got to meet social workers here in LA and also in New York and spend time with them, and you know, I've got so much admiration for people that take on that job, because I think it can be very challenging. You know, you've got so many issues to deal with, and like you say, also balancing that potentially, you know, demonized image that they can have in the press. So it's been really interesting, and yeah, and within the show, you know, obviously my character Clea, you know, we very much meet her as a social worker to begin with, and then get to find out, particularly this episode that we're screening tonight, Lost and Found, a little bit more about her as a person, as a human being, not just her work facade. So that's also really interesting to me, you know, to have that three-dimensional view.
Social services took me from my mother when I was 8 years old. She's been on the street my entire life. I know this is our old neighborhood, but that's it.
Yeah, in this episode we discover that Clea's mother, she hasn't spoken to her for 6 years. We discover that she actually is schizophrenic, and actually Clea herself grew up in and out of foster homes. So she has very personal relationship with social services, and in fact, you know, I think in her personal experience and her backstory, she wasn't particularly handled very well within the system, and that was really what inspired her to get in and become a social worker herself, because I think she felt like, having been that child like Jake, you know, she could really empathize with that situation, and had the experience of knowing what it was like. So so yeah, I think it's a very personal journey for her, and you know, she's trying to work out her own demons as well. And I mean, in the social workers that I met, I think it's not uncommon for people that are drawn to social work and the therapeutic industries to have a personal experience of that too. So that was interesting that had worked into the backstory as well.
Those people in the rec room, they hear about Jake.
Yes.
Did you inform his father?
We're not required to. Think very carefully what you're about to do. Because if you come down on the wrong side of this, your judgment will be called into question.
By you?
Yes. By me. You're ignoring the obvious dangers to Jake because you have an inappropriate relationship with his father.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there is any romance on the cards, but certainly in this episode, you know, they definitely get closer together in terms of their trust, and Martin really gets to see Clea with her guard down for the first time. You know, she's very much been in her work persona up until now, and in this episode we really get to see her vulnerability, and he gets to see that as well, you know, and then once we move on to episode 7, which is going to be on this week, you know, it's the first time that Clea is really instigating the idea that Jake is connecting the numbers, as opposed to Martin constantly trying to persuade her. She's trying to persuade him, so that's a real, you know, evolution for her. You know, she's absolutely on board, and she's really committed to trying to find out what happened to Arthur Teller, Danny Glover's character, and also, you know, there's the potential for her trying to expose some corruption which may be going on within the board and care facility, but I don't want to give too much away about that, because that sort of all builds to the series finale as well.